Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Abhayacharunadavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोप गो श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्री मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। श्री नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा मई की जय, यमुना मई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, समवेता भक्त वृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 4, text number 8. Could somebody grab me the book? Devodhyana Shriya Jushtam Adhyaste Sma Tripishtapam Mahendra Bhavanam Sakshan Nirmitam Viśvakarmā Trailokya Lakshmi Ayatanam Adhyuvasa Adhyuva. What is it? Okay. Yeah, Akila Riddhimat. I'll read from it. Okay, anyway. Devodhyana Shriyajushtam Adhyaste Smatripishtapam Mahendra Bhavanam Sakshan Nirmitam Viśvakarmā Trailokya Lakshmya Yatanam Adhyuvasa Kilariddhimat Devodhyana Shriyajushtam Adhyaste Smatripishtapam Mahendra Bhavanam Sakshan Nirmitam Viśvakarmā Trailokya Lakshmya Yatanam Adhyuvasa Kilariddhimat Devodhyana Shriyajushtam Adhyaste Smatripishtapam Mahendra Bhavanam Sakshan Nirmitam Viśvakarmā Trailokya Lakshmya Yatanam Adhyuvasa Kilariddhimat Devodhyana Shriyajushtam Adhyaste Smatripishtapam Mahendra Bhavanam Sakshan Nirmitam Viśvakarmā Trailokya Lakshmya Yatanam Adhyuvasa Trailokya Lakshmya Yatanam Sakilardhimat Shriyajushtam Indra Bhavanam Saksha Nirmitam Viśvakarmā Trailokya Adhyuvasa Kilariddhimat. Anybody else dare? You want to try? Okay. Anybody online? Okay. Deva Udhyana of the famous garden of the demigods. Shriya by the opulences. Jushtam enriched. Adhyaste sma remained in. Tripishtapam the higher planetary system, where various demigods live. Mahendra Bhavanam the palace of Indra, the king of heaven. Sakshat directly. Nirmitam constructed. Viśvakarmā, by the famous architect of the demigods, Viśvakarmā. Trailokya, of all the three worlds. Lakshmi Ayatanam, the residence of the goddess of fortune. Adhyavasa, lived in. Akhilaridhimat, possessing the opulence of the entire universe. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Hiraṇyakaśipu, who possessed all opulence, began residing in heaven with its famous Nandana garden, which is enjoyed by the demigods. In fact, he resided in the most opulent palace of Indra, the king of heaven. The palace had been directly constructed by the demigod architect Viśvakarmā, and was as beautiful as if the goddess of fortune of the entire universe resided there. Purport. It says beautifully made. Did I say beautiful? Yeah. Okay, sorry. And was as beautifully made as if the goddess of fortune of the entire universe resided there. Purport. From this description, it appears that all the heavenly planets of the upper planetary system are thousands upon thousands of times more opulent than the lower planetary system in which we live. Viśvakarmā, the famous heavenly architect, is known as the constructor of many wonderful buildings in the upper planets, where there are not only beautiful buildings, but also many opulent gardens and parks, which are described as Nandana Devo Dhyana, gardens fit to be enjoyed by the demigods. This description of the upper planetary system and its opulences is understood from authoritative scriptures like the Vedic literatures. Telescopes and other imperfect instruments of scientists are inadequate for evaluating the upper planetary system. Although such instruments are needed because the vision of the so-called scientist is imperfect, the instruments themselves are also imperfect. Therefore, the upper planets cannot be appraised by imperfect men using imperfect man-made instruments. Direct information received from the Vedic literature, however, is perfect. We therefore cannot accept the statement that there are no opulent residences on planets other than this earth. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupakadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Viśvakarmā Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Hiraṇyakaśipu is now beginning his reign of terror in the universe. We're reading that he's just taken up residence in the palace of Indra. And Srila Prabhupada's taking this opportunity to speak more about the nature of the heavenly planets and to highlight exactly how opulent they are. It's described here that the palace that had been constructed by the demigod architect Viśvakarmā was as beautifully made as if the goddess of fortune of the entire universe resided there. And the first sentence of Srila Prabhupada's purport says, from this description, it appears that all the heavenly planets of the upper planetary system are thousands upon thousands of times more opulent than the lower planetary system in which we live. So, reading this description, it highlights how, what's the opposite of opulent? Inopulent? Unopulent? Yeah, how this earth is actually not quite as opulent as we think it is. In the 5th canto also, there's descriptions of the natural opulences of the heavenly planets, of the different heavenly planets. And it's really quite amazing, actually. When you read, it's like really like inconceivably amazing, actually. And Ilavrita Varsha, well, it's described that around Mount Meru there are 4 mountains, and on top of those mountains there are trees which stand on the peaks of the mountains, which are like it's described that they're like flagpoles, kind of, and that each of them are 1,100 yojanas tall, and 1 yojana is 8 miles. So there's a kadamba tree, there's a jambu tree, which is a rose apple tree, there's a mango tree, there's one more. I'm forgetting now the other one. But anyway, so these trees had these giant fruits. The mango tree is said to have mangoes the size of mountain peaks. And the jambu tree is said to have rose apples the size of elephants. And when these fruits fall, specifically it describes the mangoes and the jambu fruits falling, and then in particular it goes into this description how these elephant-sized rose apples fall to the ground, and they're so juicy and so fragrant that they fall, and then they break when they fall, because they're falling from 8,800 miles in the sky. So they fall and they break, and the juice from them creates rivers. Rivers that are, I think it's described that they're 200 feet wide, approximately. 200 feet wide. Rivers of rose apple juice. And the fragrance of these fruits, it describes that one who eats them, their mouth perfumes the air for like 100 miles or something like that. They're so fragrant and so juicy. And this juice, actually, somehow or other, it reacts with the air and with the sun, and it produces the gold which all the demigods make their ornaments out of, this jambu juice. Maybe that's where jambu juice came from. Maybe it came from the heavenly planets, from Ilavrita Varsha. The heavenly planets have this amazing natural opulence. It's also described the bodies of the people in the heavenly planets. They have no bodily odor, they have no disease, no old age. They die, but they don't die like we die. They just kind of like, just kind of go to sleep. And also they speak, Srila Prabhupada brings up in one purport that Sanskrit, they speak Sanskrit. The reason that the script of this script here is called Devanagari, Devanagari. And the reason it's called that, Nagari or Nagar means city, and Deva means demigods. So this is just like you have Roman numerals. Srila Prabhupada brings up that this is the script which is spoken and written in the cities of the demigods. That's why it's called Devanagari. It's also called Deva Bhasha, which means heavenly language. So, and then also, we're hearing about these gardens, and then what to speak of the, the different buildings and things like that constructed by Viśvakarmā and, the other demigods, how opulent they are. I think later it'll describe, maybe it's not in this chapter, but it describes how Indra's palace has stairs made of beautiful coral. And it gives this whole description. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. It's in the next verse. The steps of King Indra's residence were made of coral. The floor was bedecked with invaluable emeralds. The floor, they're walking on emeralds. The columns made of Vaidurya stone. The canopies were beautifully decorated. Silk bedding as white as foam. The ladies of the palace, blessed with beautiful teeth, beautiful faces. They see their own beautiful reflections in the gems on the walls. So, amazing opulence is present there in the heavenly planets. Srila Prabhupada, in the first sentence, he says that it's thousands upon thousands of times more opulent. And in some places, Srila Prabhupada used the word more comfortable than this planet. On this planet, our opulence is not so, even in previous ages it was quite opulent, but even then it doesn't compare at all to the opulence of the heavenly planets. Here nowadays, fruit and, especially sweet fruit is hard to come by. You can't buy a nice sweet fruit in the market. Most of it is, not so sweet, and there's pesticides and all these different things. And yeah, gems and things like that, people aren't wear. Of course, people wear diamonds and gold and things like that, but it's usually like, a woman will have a diamond ring, and the diamond's like this big, you can barely see it. And even then, sometimes it's glass. Sometimes it's not even a real diamond. So this situation that's present in the heavenly planets is very desirable for a materialistic person. We see that like Srila Prabhupada was saying, the scientists, they have no knowledge of these heavenly planets. They can't see them. They don't have the adhikar, like we were talking about yesterday. They don't have the adhikar to see them. So, but this kind of ideal they have in mind. And so they're trying as best they can. Everybody's trying. Everybody in the material world, not just the scientists or whoever. Everybody in this material world is trying to make this kind of heavenly situation here in this world. I was reflecting that they have these giant trees in the heavenly planets, these big fruits. Well, they're trying to do that now with selective, breeding and all these different things, GMOs. Previously in the medieval ages, or as they call them, the Dark Ages, alchemy was a big thing. Alchemy was, of course, also something in Vedic culture. But alchemy was a big thing. They were trying to make gold out of iron or whatever. Immortality, now people are talking about biological immortality. I gave a class on that somewhat recently. Biological immortality. Space travel also is a big thing, having the freedom to travel to all different places and acquire resources and different things like that. So materialists are trying to, and Hiraṇyakaśipu also, we're seeing, they're trying to make this kind of heavenly situation in this world. Of course, Hiraṇyakaśipu is actually a little more intelligent. He's actually going to the heavenly planets. He has some knowledge of that. But the materialists in this world have no knowledge of that. And because of that, because they don't have proper knowledge, then all of their endeavors are like Krishna says. What's that verse? Sahajam karma kaunteya sadosham. All of their endeavors are marred with fault. Everything that they do, because it's within the modes of material nature, is faulty. And we see that as the world is becoming more and more, quote-unquote, advanced, people are becoming more and more miserable. It's interesting to see nowadays the young people who are supposed to have, it's supposed to be, whatever. Every new generation is supposed to be the generation that saves the world. But especially nowadays, it seems like, people are thinking that, okay, we're on the cusp of something really amazing. We're on the cusp of the future. And this generation, is going to be like a really kind of, important or what would you say, crucial generation for making these, technological advancements. But if you see, actually, they do anyway, I'm not so big on quoting statistics and stuff like that, but I think it's significant. This is all self-reported. These are people reporting. In 2018, from 2018 to 2019, they had a group of 6 to 17-year-olds report on the last year.
6 or 16?
6 to 17. 6 years old to 17 years old. 36% of them reported that within the last year, they felt persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness. 36%. And 15% of them actually made a plan to commit suicide. 15%. So although there's this kind of, fantasy floating around that we're on the cusp of making life amazing and everything's going to get better, and we're making all these technological advancements, and we're going to go to Mars, and we're going to go to the moon, and we're going to colonize the moon, and we're going to colonize Mars, and we're going to go here and go there, and we're going to cure this disease, we're going to cure cancer, you know, whatever it is. Life is going to become so convenient. People are just becoming more and more miserable. And there's no sign of that slowing down. One famous, I'm forgetting his name now. Anyway, there's one famous scientist who said that the only problem that's going to be there in the future is, or he says the main problem of the future is boredom. That's what he said. Because everybody's going to be able to do everything, basically. And then at that point, they're just going to be bored. You know, you do everything, you know, do everything. Yeah, even nowadays, people, you know, you see. And I think this was a number of years ago this was said. So, but boredom, what does boredom mean? Boredom means that, okay, I've done everything. But it's not just like, okay, I've done everything, now I'm just kind of bored, I don't know what to do next. No, people are just going to become miserable. People are just going to become depressed. People are going to, you know, become hopeless. It's not just boredom. It's misery. So no matter how much people try, there really is no hope. There really isn't. Basically, this society produces two kinds of people: desperate people and hopeless people. Hopeless people think, okay, well, anyway, there's no hope. It's not going to work out. You know, more and more people are realizing that it doesn't matter how much you do or how much you get or how much you acquire. You're not going to be satisfied. So that condition produces two people: hopeless people who say, okay, anyway, I'm not going to be satisfied. There's no hope. Or desperate people who says, okay, I really this is really starting to get scary. Like, are you really saying I'm not going to be satisfied? Like, you know, what's going on? And then they just try and try and try and keep trying. But no matter how much they try, no matter how much opulence or scientific knowledge or even piety you have, it's hopeless. There's a verse in Chaitanya Bhagavatam by Vrindavan Das Thakur. He says, Sheshab oparad hobe punarbar. And then he says, Bishoyer dharma e shuno kotashar. He says, Vishaya dharma means the dharma of material enjoyment, or like it seems like it's a bit of a cheeky kind of term he uses. He says, Shesha aparad habe punarbar, means you just make the same mistake over and over again. This is the dharma of material enjoyment, to make the same mistake over and over and over again. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, punah punah shravarcha charvananam, to just chew the chewed over and over again. So we see this even in the Vedas. We see even amongst very pious, very even powerful sages. We see this happening. Powerful sages, powerful warriors, powerful anybody. And Shastra specifically, there's a verse in the 12th canto where Shukadeva Goswami, he's speaking to Parikshit Maharaj. He says, I know I've just spoken about a bunch of kings, but my purpose was to, because you read in the Bhagavatam is basically, and most of the Puranas, they're narrations about kings, about powerful people. Shukadeva Goswami says, but my purpose isn't just to talk about kings and tell you nice stories about kings. He says, my purpose was to teach you about renunciation, actually. But narrations about kings lend power and opulence to these narrations, which means that, okay, you hear about some, poverty-stricken guy, some guy living in South Central LA, and he decides, man, I'm going to take sannyas or something like that. It's like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. He didn't really have much anyway. But when you hear about Bharat Maharaj, who ruled the entire world, when you hear about Priyavrata Maharaj, who ruled the entire world, or Prithu or whoever, they had all the opulence on earth. And what did they do? They gave it all up. So to hear about something like that, to think, okay, even this person gave it all up. Okay, he had, huh? Yeah, and at a young age too. You hear about all these, these narrations, and you think, well, maybe there's something to it. This guy, if even this guy says there's no hope, then maybe there's something to it. So, we see that even though these narrations are there in Shastra, even in all these very powerful people still, Sheshab aparadh habe punarbar, they make the same mistake over and over and over again. It's all over Shastra. One famous example in Ramayana, Trishanku Maharaj. He was a king in the Ikshvaku dynasty. His guru was Vasishtha Muni. And so he got this idea. He said, I want to go to heaven in this body without dying. I don't want to die, I just want to go to heaven. And so he approached Vasishtha, and he said, can you do this for me? Vasishtha said, no way, it's impossible. You can't do that. And he rejected him. He said, And so then he went to Vasishtha Muni's sons. And he said, hey, I just spoke to your dad. He says I can't go to the heavenly planets in my own body, but you're all very powerful sages. You're the sons of my guru. Next to him, you are my ultimate authority. So please, are you able to do this for me? And they said, come on, you went to our dad, now you come to us. It's like, what do you expect us to overrule or override our father? You're nuts, basically, they said. And so he said, you know what? To hell with you guys, and he left. And as he was leaving, they cursed him, and they said, you're going to become a Chandala. And so that night, as he was going to sleep, his skin turned very dark, his hair fell out, his garland that he was wearing turned into a garland from a crematorium, and his body became withered, and he just horrible, And so then the next day, he approached Viśvakarmā. And he was speaking to Viśvakarmā. It's very funny. He was speaking to Viśvakarmā, and he was saying, and Viśvakarmā asked him. He said, you're a prince, you're a king. What happened to you? And he says, I realized that actually, that nothing can be achieved by my personal effort. It's all fate. I realize that this is fate's, acting upon me. This is the will of providence. I realize that I have no control. And he says, unless you can take me to heaven in my own body, unless maybe there's some way that you know of that I can get to heaven, like by my own personal efforts. And he said, get to heaven by your own personal efforts, just in your own body? He said, yeah, I can do that for you. And so he gathers some priests, and they do this yajna, and it's described, actually, he grabs the sacrificial ladle, this shruv, you see the big one with the beak, the big one, and he points it to the sky, and he's yelling at Indra, he's saying, I'm going to send this man, it's like really intense kind of scene. And so they're doing this yajna, and as they're doing this yajna, Trishanku Maharaj, he starts going up. And then Indra, he comes and he's looking down, he's saying, hey man, this guy can't come. He doesn't have the piety, he doesn't have the karma. And so Indra, with his power, he starts sending him down. And so now Trishanku's upside down, and he's going back to earth. And meanwhile, Viśvakarmā and Indra, they're yelling at each other, they're arguing. And Trishanku Maharaj is caught in the middle of it, he's upside down, going down to earth, he's stuck in place, just upside down like that. And so Viśvakarmā is saying, hey, okay, I know he doesn't have the piety, but my word has to be true. I can't let this man down. Yeah, exactly, literally, yeah. And so Viśvakarmā, he's such a powerful sage, he's so angry that from his very anger, he creates an entire separate planetary system with its own stars and everything, just out of his anger. And so Indra says, listen, you can send him wherever you want, but he can't come here. And so Viśvakarmā says, you know what, fine, I'll make my own heavenly planets, I'll make my own, Indraloka, and I'll send him there without you. And he says, all right, fine, if you want to send him there. And he says, but he's going to have to stay upside down. And so to this day, Trishanku Maharaj is in that universe, that planetary system that Viśvakarmā Muni created, floating upside down. He didn't make it. And he's in this miserable condition of just floating upside down all over this planetary system. So, poor guy. He didn't make it.
Just channel
Yeah. So, and we're seeing now, Hiraṇyakaśipu, he's trying to rule the world. He's trying to attain heaven just by his own effort. And he's now occupying Indraloka. He got a little farther than Trishanku Maharaj. And we see Bali also. Bali Maharaj, of course, he's a Mahajan. But he conquered the whole universe, and what happened? It was all taken away from him within just a very short amount of time. So all over the Vedas, there's all these narrations of these powerful personalities who, again, Sheshab Aparadha Habe Punarbar, they just make the same mistake over and over again. Why? Because they're following this Vishaya Dharma. Vishaya Dharma. So we should understand, what is real Dharma? What is the real thing? How do we avoid making the same mistake over and over again? Well, we have to learn from Srimad Bhagavatam. We have to learn from the Puranas about other people's mistakes. We're very fortunate now to live in Kali Yuga. It's described that the demigods, they're actually praying to take birth in this particular Kali Yuga. One thing is because of the Yuga Dharma chanting the holy name, but another thing is that Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga has already happened. All these kings have already made all these mistakes, and now we're in Kali Yuga and we get to read about it in Srimad Bhagavatam, and try to avoid those mistakes. So what is Dharma? Srimad Bhagavatam says, Dharmam tu sakshad bhagavat pranitam navai vidur rishayo napi devaha na siddha mukya asara manushya kuto navidyadara charanadeyaha. Dharma is that which is spoken by Krishna, that which is that it is spoken by Sakshat Bhagavan, Krishna himself. And one thing that this verse says, incidentally, is that it's not understood by the Siddha Mukhya Asura Manushya. It's not understood by the Siddhas. Well, Navai Vidur Rishayo Napidev. It's not understood by the Rishis, not understood by the demigods. It's not understood by the Siddhas, the Mukhyas. It's not understood by human beings, what to speak of demons. It's not understood by the Charnas, the Vidyadharas, all these different demigods and heavenly personalities. None of them can understand it. Therefore, Krishna, this is in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mai Mukta Jivan Nahi Shata Krishna Gyan, Jibere Kripai Kola Krishna Ved Puran. Therefore, in order to help us understand it, Krishna gives the Vedas and the Puranas. Srila Prabhupada is saying in this purport here, direct information received from Vedic literature, however, is perfect. We therefore cannot accept the statement that there are no opulent residences on planets other than this earth. Meaning we don't accept the statements of people who have no knowledge of Krishna, have no knowledge of who are outside of the fold, of the Vedic fold, the fold of Vedic wisdom. Why should we accept their statements? Because in Shastra, Krishna has given infallible knowledge. The knowledge, the ability to understand what is and what isn't, even on a material plane. Even on the material platform, Shastra gives so many things which can't be perceived with just our senses. Ayurveda, different, Jyotish, astrology, and things like even in yoga, you have prana, and you have pranayama, the ability to control the breath and the life airs, all these different things, just subtle material things, nothing really major to us. But all these, and like Srila Prabhupada's bringing up in the purport, these heavenly planets, knowledge of these heavenly planets, all these different, another thing also is music. Music is a whole thing, tal and rag, and the different times of the day, which different rags are meant to be sung or played. So all these different things, they're material things, basic material things. Trigunya Vashya Veda, Nistrigunya Bhavarjana. Krishna says Trigunya Vashya Veda. Krishna says that the Vedas, in one sense, mostly deal with the three modes of material nature and those things within it. Vimana Shastra is also there, how to build an airplane. So all these things are there in Vedic literature. What to speak of the spiritual platform? What to speak of knowledge of Brahman, which is real knowledge. And this knowledge of Brahman, this is the essential subject of the Vedic literature, the ultimate subject of the Vedic literature. Therefore, Krishna enjoins Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, like this verse I quoted. He says, don't get caught up in all these different material things. Don't get caught up in these different ways that the Vedas allow one to enjoy. Loke vivayamisha madhyaseva nityahi jantur nahi tatra chodana. Vivastitisteshu vivaha yajna suragraha asunivritirishta. It says that, yeah, the Vedas might give some regulated allowance for sex, for drinking, for meat eating, because it says nityahi jantur nahi tatra chodana. Because it says that these are natural propensities in jantus. Jantu is like a conditioned soul. Jantu also means a fool. These are natural propensities for those who are jantu. However, it says, it says you can get, for sex, you can get married through yajna. It says, vivaha yajna, or sorry, vivaha and then yajna. But in yajna, there's some allowance for eating meat. Suragraha also, and there's some allowance for drinking, for intoxication, and also kind of like yajna kind of context. But then it says, asunivritirishta. It says, but ultimately these things are meant for renunciation. There's allowances for them within Vedic literature, but ultimately these things are meant for renunciation. Why? Because avichuto artha kavibir nirupito yad uttama shloka gurnanu varnanam. Because all effort, all human life, any kind of effort, mental effort. What's this verse? Idam hi pumsastapasashrutasya va svishtasya suktasya cha buddhi dattayo avichuto artha kavibir nirupito yaduttama shloka gurnanu varnanam. It says all austerities, all culture of knowledge, all effort for acquiring in this material world, all that effort is meant for, has one infallible goal, according to those who are kavi, according to wise persons. Yad uttama shloka gurnanu varnanam, for glorifying Krishna, for glorifying uttama shloka, Krishna. Also, what's his name? My God. Savaimana Krishna Padaravindiyo. Amrish Maharaj, sorry, Amrish Maharaj, my God. Amrish Maharaj. Savaimana Krishna Padaravindiyo. Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanu Varnane. Karohare Mandira Marjanadishu. Shrutim Chakarachita Satkato Deye. The ears are meant for hearing topics. Amrish Maharaj, he used his ears for hearing topics of Krishna. He used his hands for cleaning Krishna's temple. He used his mind for thinking of Krishna. He used his speech for speaking about Krishna. It also goes to the whole description. There's 3 verses. I'm forgetting the second. Anyway, there's 3 verses describing how Amrish Maharaj engaged all of his senses, his feet, his everything, in worshipping Krishna. So this is Tasyeva heto praiteta govadon nalabite yad brahmatamu paryada tallabite dukavadanyata sukam kalena sarvata kabiraram hasa. One shouldn't focus on acquiring more happiness, because just like misery, happiness comes and goes, whether we try or not. The nature of this world, the nature of this body is that sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's sad, suffering. So therefore, nalabite yad brahmatamu paryada. Don't work for that which can just get you, or for anything within this world up to Brahma's abode. Rather, one who is intelligent, one who is kovida, tallabite dukavadanyata sukam, one should work to acquire that which can completely annihilate all their suffering. One should work for the ultimate goal. It's a kind of a basic principle, If there's an ultimate goal, why spend all your time working toward preliminary goals or auxiliary goals? Work for the ultimate goal. Yavanartha udapane sarvata samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanataha. The one who is a brahmana, one who understands Brahman, he serves all of the purposes of the Vedas by serving Krishna, by serving the ultimate goal of the Vedas. What's that? I can't believe I'm forgetting it. Aham eva vedyaha. Vedaishta sarvar aham eva vedyaha. Krishna says, of all the Vedas, I am to be known. It's me. Because he says, Vedanta krit veda veda eva jaham. Because why? Because I made them. And that's how I know. That's how I know that all the Vedas are for me. Why? Because I made them. So, just like if you have a big well and a small well, all the purposes of a small well can be served by a big well. So instead of focusing on all these preliminary or all these unnecessary, actually, goals, temporary goals, one should focus on the eternal goal, which is to be reinstated in their position as a servant of Krishna. And so the whole process of Krishna consciousness is trying to broaden our perspective that there is actually an ultimate goal. Even we may not have full realization of this. We might still think that, okay, that we have things to do. Even devotees, might not have full realization of this, in the anartha nivritti stage, or the stage of sadhana. But these narrations in Shastra are meant to broaden our vision, are meant to show us or help us to realize this, that there is actually an ultimate goal, and that we shouldn't be caught up at all whatsoever, like the 10th offense of the holy name, to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter, So the purpose of these narrations in Shastra is to show us how ugly lust is. Lust is really ugly. Material desire is a really ugly thing, actually. It's kind of like when you see a man kind of like, lusting over a woman, or kind of like hitting on a woman. It's very embarrassing, actually, to see something like that. It's very like, you feel like it's so obvious to this that this person is just like being completely lusty right now when he's speaking to this other person, It's kind of embarrassing, when you see it. It's kind of like, oh man, like geez, But the vast majority of people, they see that and they're like, oh man, this guy, look how lusty he is, Or one thing is, people criticize so many celebrities and popular personalities for all these sex scandals, But they're doing the same things, Oh, this celebrity cheated on his girlfriend. Oh, he's so bad, How many people cheat on their girlfriends every day? Probably some of the people who are criticizing these, popular personalities or whatever, probably do the same thing. Or at least if they don't do the same thing, at least that desire is there in their mind. They can't claim to be so self-controlled that it would never happen to them. Everyone's lusty. The whole material world is full of a bunch of lusty people. That's why we're here. So these narrations in Shastra are meant to show us that actually it's really ugly. It's a really kind of embarrassing and ugly position to be in. To be so lusty. So it helps to cut that attachment. It helps to show us that it's just like when Srila Prabhupada would say things like, it's wet stool, dry stool. It's meant to wake us up. It's meant to be like, oh man, So anyway, sorry, I went on a little bit late, but I'll stop there. If there's any questions or comments. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
You started, I think, near the beginning describing the general tenor of consciousness of especially young people, hopeless. They don't see. And one of the things, because I remember, when I was a kid, I wasn't that young, I was like a teenager, And I was very aware of what was going on in the world. That's the thing, the war in Vietnam and everything like that. And now it's even easier to be aware. You get in your pocket, you got all the information in the world, basically. And so they're very aware that their elders are not doing what's necessary to maintain a livable ecology, like that. In other words, it's very obvious if you're a little intelligent, you can read, well, we got to stop, destroying the environment, but they're not doing it, and so they're thinking, well, they're betraying us. Our elders are there's no future. This is one of the things. And the pandemic didn't help with all of the isolation. That's another thing, the depression, Well, this is one of the things that Krishna consciousness can give. In other words, not material hope, but real hope for advancement. As what's the real point? And one of the things that I emphasize when I give the class in the evening is this verse, Nehabhikamanashosti, because that's also there in the other verse they didn't quote, the one after Tasaveheto, Tyaktva Dharmam. So if you give up your material dharma and you join the Hare Krishnas, but you don't, you fall away, where is there any loss? Nehabhikamanashosti. But if you try very hard for material things, where is there any gain? It's always taken away. It's all taken away. So that providing of hope that you can actually make some progress to the real goal of life. First, you have to define what the goal of life is, and that it's a win-win situation. The process itself is happy. Susukam kartam aviyam. So that's something that Krishna consciousness can provide that none of the other. It's just not out there at all. There's just a lot of horror, there's wars going on and they're destroying the environment. And then you have certain, the kids get disturbed, and they say, well, I'm just going to get a gun. There's some young kid, he went and shot up his school, and he's going to have life in prison. I saw him. He looked like a 14-year-old kid with long hair. It's really a disaster out there. Because it's, and you look at the world, and where is there any hope? Where is there any? So you can try to go to drugs and this and that, but so that's one of the things we can provide for hope for people.
Thank you. Vijamani Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thank you for a wonderful lecture, and that we missed the first part. I'm sorry about that, but the ending was nice. And I wanted to, you were speaking about the ultimate goal, and I wanted to ask this question. You also gave an example of Maharaj Ambarish, who was completely immersed in that with all of his senses. But now we see that in the beginning of our Krishna consciousness, or even further, we might understand what is the ultimate goal, but not realize it. And so what should be our safest and most accurate position, aspiring for that ultimate goal in the beginning stages? Because now, at that point, we cannot fully be immersed, just like the example of Maharaj Ambarish.
Well, Krishna gives us this, in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Krishna, what is it? Ata chittam samadhatum. What is it? Ata chittam samadhatum. Nashaknoshi mayistiram. Abhyasa yogena tato mam itchaptum dhananjaya. He says that, the goal, there's one verse before that where he says the goal, he's just telling Arjuna. He's saying, just always be absorbed in thoughts of me, never forget me for a single moment, and you'll live in me, and at the time of death you'll attain me. So he's giving that's the standard. The standard of Krishna consciousness is, like we always say, always remember Krishna and never forget him. But for one who can't do that, then he says, Atachittam samadhatum nashaknoshi mayistiram. If you can't always have your consciousness fixed on me, then he says, Abhyasa yogena tato mam itchaptum dhananjaya. He says, then just follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, and you'll develop a desire to attain me. Which means that even if, in the stage of sadhana, you might not even have a desire to be Krishna conscious. Actually, really in the stage of sadhana, you don't really have a desire. You don't you don't love Krishna. That's the point, And it's kind of a weird thing where it's like you don't love Krishna, but you want to love Krishna. So because you don't love Krishna, then sometimes you don't want to go back to Godhead. In the sadhana stage, you don't want to go back to Godhead. You want to go back to Godhead. So the process of sadhana bhakti, the rules and regulations of sadhana bhakti, Krishna says, Mam itchaptam dhananjaya. Then you'll develop a desire, a real desire. You may have some, preliminary desire. But then you'll develop a real, actual desire to attain Krishna. There's another verse. Sadhana. Krishna, I forgot the first line. Bhavasa sadhana avadana nitya siddhasya. No, not seva sadhana rupena. It's I forgot the first line. Anyway, sadhyas bhavasa sadhana avadana nitya siddhasya bhavasa prakatam hridi sadhyata. can't remember the first line for the life of me. It's quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but it's from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Nitya siddhasya bhavasya. If you look up that line, then I'll explain it in a second. Yeah, nitya siddhasya bhavasya. I'm forgetting the first line. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, you want to recite? Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya, kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya, bhava sa sadhanavada, nitya siddhasya bhavasya, prakatyam hridi sadhyata. So this is the definition of sadhana. Sadhana means kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya. By engaging your senses, kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya, it's engaging your senses in such a way that sadhya comes about, and the goal comes about. And then it defines the goal, nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatam hridi sadhyata. And then this goal is already there within the heart. Nitya siddha. Some people also translate this as that it's the sadhya bhav coming from the nitya siddhas. But Srila Prabhupada's translation was that it's eternally established in the heart. Nitya siddhasya bhav prakatam hridi sadhyata. It comes about in the heart. So just by engaging one's senses in the process of sadhana bhakti, then naturally one becomes purified. And one comes to the level of, anyway, there's all these different levels to prema. So the process of Krishna consciousness, the rules and regulations are such that if you follow them very strictly, you will attain the desired success. Even if you don't want to, even if you follow it out of duty, chanting 16 rounds and doing all these, not just the 4 rags and chanting 16 rounds, it's kind of a cheap answer. But, trying to engage the mind, in kirtan, trying to engage the mind in japa, trying to engage the mind, and like really trying to engage, actively engage the mind in reading. All these different things help. All these different things purify one. And just by following, Srila Prabhupada said Krishna consciousness is so simple you might miss it. So it really is simple in the sense that you just have to do it, and you just have to have the determination to keep doing it. And advancement happens when your mind is saying hell no, but your intelligence says yes. That's when that's when advancement actually happens, because you're pushing the mind out of the way. You're strengthening that muscle, that Krishna conscious muscle that pushes the mind out of the way. So that's something. Is there something else?
I like it. Thank you. Yeah. I was just realizing one point that sometimes when we go out on book distribution, we get very enthusiastic, and we come back and we understand we work hard and we feel very happy and some blaze, But then also we want to rest hard.
Yeah.
Take a long night of sleep. Rest hard, and then start all over again to get that bliss again.
Yeah.
But what should be the appropriate thing? Should we use that enthusiasm somehow else so we don't have to fall into that ignorance of wanting to rest so hard?
Well, rest isn't a bad thing. You should rest. It's good to rest. But and different people's bodies need different amounts of rest and things like that. But if one can just keep going and going and going, then that's good. But it shouldn't because the thing is, okay, you go on book distribution, you have like a really fired up day on book distribution, you distribute like 100 books, and then you get back and you're out for like 9 hours, and you get back, you're like, oh man, I'm so tired, but I got to keep going. I got to keep, I got to be fired up. So I'm going to wash all the pots and clean the kitchen, and I'm going to, whatever, put the deities to rest or whatever, And then the next day, you wake up and you're like, oh man, I can't even get up for Mangal Arti, and then you sleep and you don't go out on book distribution. Then it's like, so everything has to be in moderation. So yeah, you work hard. Prabhupada said something like, if you work like a horse, you can eat like a horse, which is a similar kind of principle. If you work like a horse, then you can rest like a horse. Of course, I don't know how much horses rest, but anyway, the same thing. Same kind of thing. If you work like a horse, you can rest like a dog. So. Okay, anything more? Okay, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.